Have you ever wanted to get rid of that ugly carpet that's on your motorhome's doghouse? I'm going to show you how to do that on this episode of Roaming with Rosie. Hey roamers, it's Jamie back at you. What we got going today is we're going to work on this carpet on the doghouse here. One thing when we initially purchased this RV was there was cuts here on either side in the carpet, and I've never liked the carpet. Nowadays when you see new RVs, they actually have a plastic cover that goes over it with places for cups and things like that, but they were still putting, in the year that this was built, they were still putting this ugly carpet on here. And the problem is like I said, it has this, and that's shredding, and then also it has spots on there. So what I want to do is I want to pull all this carpet off, and I want to refinish it without the carpet on there. See, now this here is the fiberglass. So all we need to do is, they just glue it down. So all I'm going to do is, like you saw what I just did, I'm going to take my putty knife here. I'm going to get all of this off. The other thing I need to do is along this edge here where it meets with the floor, I need to take a razor knife and cut that. So we have a nice clean cut there. Eventually the carpet up front here is going to go when we do the rest of the flooring. So, but I'm going to just continue on with this. Luckily this is coming up pretty easily. I was worried that the adhesive would be so strong that I would have to use some kind of solvent to be able to get this off of here. So to be able to get this carpet off all the way down here, I have to loosen up the cover here. Ours has these screws down here. Some of them that I've seen, they actually have a thing that works off an Allen wrench where you put it in there and it moves over like a little cam lock. These are just screwed in here, and then two up there. So I'm just going to loosen those up right now so I can actually get to this carpet that's underneath it. Three of the screws that hold this down, there's actually 4 screws. The two in the front were really accessible. This one here is really accessible, but this one here, there's no way to get a drill or anything under there to be able to get that screw out. What I'm going to have to do is get one of those stubby screwdrivers and do it by hand. I'm trying to avoid completely removing the cover because stopping any of this debris going into my engine. So I want to be able to just get that loose so I can lift it up a little bit so I can get the rest of this carpet out. But I don't want to completely take it off until I have all of this out of here and vacuumed up and everything, because I don't want any of this junk going into my motor. Well, I got it part away. Now I can get on. I'm going to get a pair of vice grips, and I'm going to hold on to the head with the vice grips and screw it out, because there's not enough room between the dash and... So if you had to take your RV in for a major engine service repair, they would have to remove this cover to be able to access the top of the motor. There was no thought whatsoever taken into consideration that a mechanic would have to remove this. So you're paying a mechanic, I don't know how much an hour, $100 and something an hour to be able to work on your motor, and they're having to do what I'm having to do. I don't know any tool that would make it easier to be able to pull this out. And this is slow going. I'm having to take the vice grips here, clamp on the head of the screw half a turn. It's going to take a long time to get it out. You wouldn't want to pay a mechanic to have to do that. I mean, it's ridiculous. And these RV builders don't take any of that stuff into consideration. The Doghouse was probably already on here. They slapped the dash in here, not thinking, oh, somebody's going to have to access that. That never comes into play. So it's just frustrating that they don't think about any of that stuff. Okay, so we finally got that out. Now our cover is completely loose. So another example of the RV industry. All they had is the fiberglass and the carpet over top to deaden the sound. I've already purchased some sound deadening, and it's also an insulating thing that's going to go on the inside here. It's going to quiet it down, and it's also going to keep the heat down. So just like I thought, they put nothing underneath here to deaden the noise or keep the heat down. All right, got all the carpet removed. Luckily, when they carpeted back there, they didn't go up, so I was able to get that removed pretty easily. Now what I need to do is I'm going to keep that covered because I don't want any debris going on my motor. I'm going to start scraping with the putty knife, getting all that excess adhesive and stuff off. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to see if I can get Goo Gone to help me remove some of this adhesive that's still on here. So I'm just going to spray it on there and see what we get. Yeah, so it looks like that's going to work out pretty well.
Except for the fumes.
There are fumes. Says danger, harmful if swallowed. So I'm assuming it's probably not real good to smell this in an enclosed area. So I'm going to have to open some windows up even though it's hot outside. That's going to be my go-to thing to be able to get this cleaned off. Like I discussed, I wanted to try with the Goo Gone first before I started doing any type of sanding or anything. And I'm glad I did that. The Goo Gone actually managed to remove everything. I get a really nice smooth surface. I mean, it's perfectly smooth. There's no sanding needed. So that's going to be really great. I've only done the cover so far, so I need to do the rest of it. And then once I have that all completed, I'm going to figure out what I want to do on top of this, because we're not going to leave it black. Okay, so I'm done with the Goo Gone. I got it all cleaned off. I got all the adhesive from the carpet off of there. But it's still sticky from the Goo Gone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use, I use this glass cleaner. I kind of use it for everything. It's really good stuff. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go over it with the glass cleaner, get rid of all the Goo Gone, what's left over from the Goo Gone. Now that we got all the carpet and the adhesive and everything off of the Doghouse, what I want to do now is I want to insulate the inside of the engine cover. That's going to help deaden the noise and also keep down some of that heat. What I did is I went online, did a little research, and I found this stuff. I got it on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description for this exact stuff. It's called Silas, and what it's made for is exactly what I said. It's going to keep the noise down, and it's also going to keep the heat down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay it in here. It's got its own adhesive on it. The thing with this stuff is, though, when you lay it out, you can't just push it down. It's kind of like a turtle bond. It gets activated when you roll it. So you got to hit it with a roller once you get it where you want it to be and cut to the size you want it to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up. I'm going to run my pieces this way. It's going to take 2 pieces, and then I'm going to take it inside, and I'm going to line the inside of the Doghouse that doesn't come off. I'm going to try and get that laid out in there, so I'm also getting that protected so we get less heat and less noise. Now that I got this all laid out, I'm going to go ahead and roll it so I know that this piece is stuck down really good. Okay, so I got my first strip down here. One thing I want to emphasize is when you go to put this stuff down, if you've ever worked with a turtle bond, you want to make sure you get it where you want it to be, because if you try to pull up, it's going to be a pain in the butt. So you want to make sure when you go to lay it down, that's exactly where you want it to be, because you're not going to be able to, once it touches and sticks, you're not going to be able to adjust it. So you just want to be really careful when you go to do that. So I just want to go over some of the benefits of this Silas stuff. The stuff that I ordered is the 157 mil thick, which is basically 4 millimeters. It's waterproof, it's heat resistant and fire resistant, so it's going to keep the heat down inside the RV. It's also keeps noise down, so it's going to suppress some of that loud engine noise that comes into the RV. That's the main reason I got it. I knew that once I pulled the carpet up, which was doing a little bit of noise deadening, that I was going to have to do something on the inside. So that's why I chose this. Once we have it installed and everything, I'm going to give you a better idea of how well I like it and how well it's working. What I decided to do, since I have so much extra of this stuff, I decided to put a second layer on here. And what I did is, when I initially put the first layer, I went this direction. This time I went the opposite direction. That way we're covering up any seams or anything like that. Now that I have my Silas noise reduction sheets on here, I got it on the inside here. I did 2 layers, and I did 2 layers on the lid. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually prime this. I'm going to prime everything because I'm going to paint it. What I did was I scuffed it up with a green pad, one of those Scotch-Brite green pads, scuffed it up a little bit. And then I'm going to be using the Sherwin-Williams Extreme Bond Primer. This is the same primer that I used on all my cabinets and everything. And the thing that's really good about this product is it'll stick to anything. It'll stick to plastic, it'll stick to PVC, it'll stick to tile, it'll stick to glass. So that's why I'm using this stuff, because what we're using here is what we're putting it on is fiberglass. But I scuffed it up just to get it a better chance to get even a better bite. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a coat of primer on here. I'm just using this green Scotch-Brite pad just to scuff it up a little bit to give the primer something more to bite to. A little bit of a rougher surface, it's going to be a little bit better, so it can't hurt. And then before I paint, I'm using this wax and tar remover. Basically all it does, it takes off anything that's dirt, or obviously with the Scotch-Brite pad there's a little bit of dust and stuff like that. So I want to make sure and get it all nice and clean before I put my primer down. Okay, so now that our primer is dry, next step is, before I start applying my top coat, I'm going to sand with 400 grit. So I'm using 400 grit because I don't want to remove a lot. I just want to be able to take off any high spots or anything like that. So I'm just going to go over the entire thing with the 400 grit, and then what I'll do is I'll wipe it down again, and then I'll show you how I mix my paint. All right, so we got it all wiped down. We got any dust or debris off of there. Now the next step is, let's go mix some paint. Now that we're ready to paint, I'm going to go over the products that I'm going to use and how I mix everything so that I get a nice smooth finish when I'm done. The paint that I'm going to be using is the Rust-Oleum Stops Rust Protective Enamel. The color is called Gloss Sand. That matches really well with the dash and everything that's inside the RV. The other thing I'm using is Penetrol. It's from a company called Flood. Penetrol is for oil base, and then there's another one that Flood makes that's for latex. We want to use the oil base because the Rust-Oleum is an oil-based paint. The reason I use the Penetrol, it's an extender, so what it's going to do is it's going to make it so the paint is workable for a lot longer than it would be if I just used the paint by itself. The other thing that it does, it thins it out so that when you're working with it, if it's really thick, it's going to dry up on you really quickly, and it's going to create a lot more bubbles. This makes it so that brush marks and roll marks will kind of flatten out, so that's what's really neat about this stuff. The other thing that I'm using, a mixing bucket, so I'm going to put my paint in here and then also add my Penetrol in here. And then I use these, it's a Pelican. I use this instead of like a paint tray because there's a couple reasons. If I'm using a paintbrush, it has a magnetic thing there, so it holds that. And then you can actually hook your roller on this side, and I'll show you that. And also, with the bucket, I use these liners because I don't want to ruin the bucket with paint. So I use a liner. So I use a liner. Once I'm done with that, throw the liner away, and I'm not destroying my bucket. And then the last thing I'm using is I'm using these pre-wet rollers. The thing that's neat about these is when you buy some other rollers, you have to take tape to get off all the fuzz and all that kind of stuff. Don't have to do that with these. And these are specifically made for cabinets and furniture and doors. So when you're wanting a real smooth surface, like we're doing here with fiberglass, this is going to be perfect for that. So when you go to use the roller, it'll just hook on there like that, stay out of the paint, and that way that's all really nice. It works out really well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually pour my paint in here, add my penetrol, get it all mixed up, and put our first coat on the cover here. So you want to make sure that you mix this up so all the pigment is mixed up inside the paint before you actually pour it into your bucket. So what I'm going to do, I'm only going to do 8 ounces, and then I'm going to put 2 ounces of my penetrol. There we go. And then we just want to mix that up really good. And then we just want to pour it into our bucket. So now when I go to paint, when I roll my paint out, I roll my paint on, and you can actually feel this once you get used to it. As you're rolling, you can feel the paint, that it's actually, there's not a lot of paint left on the roller. So once you've applied as much paint as you can, and you can see and also feel that the roller's not really letting any paint come off of it, you want to go back very lightly and roll over where you just painted. And what that'll do is it'll make it so that the bubbles and any roll marks will basically go away. You'll see some little stippling, but what'll happen is as the paint starts to cure, those things just disappear. So this process actually works out really well. All right, so I have the first coat laid down. I'm going to probably do 3 to 4 coats, and in between each coat, I'm going to do light sanding to take out any imperfections. Now that I'm done with this part, I'm going to go into the inside of the RV, do the same process, get my first coat on there. I'm going to let it dry overnight, and then I'll come back tomorrow, do my second coat, just do that same process. So it'll take us about 4 days. What I did is I went on Amazon, and I went from a Phillips head screw to actually an Allen head screw, and I also got them black instead of the regular just silver color, because I thought the black would look a lot better with what we painted. The other thing that I did is, because it's not going to be screwing down on top of the carpet any longer, I got these rubber washers, so I bought those. That's going to help with securing it, but it's also going to make it so it doesn't scrape up the paint or anything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and get these screwed in there, and then we'll move on to the next step. For this last hole here, I had initially attempted to put the screw in, put it in with the Allen wrench. It was still very difficult. So I decided, because of that, if we ever do have to have the motor work done, I don't want to pay somebody time to take a screw out that was just ridiculous. So what I ended up doing was, so I drilled a pilot hole, ran my self-tapping screw in here, So now it's easily accessible. I can unscrew it from this side over here, and then all the rest of the runs are really accessible. So that's what I ended up doing. Now that I have the doghouse all completed, I got it painted, got the lid put back on. The carpet edge is all raggedy. We're going to replace that when we redo the flooring in the RV, but we're not doing that yet. So what I did is I ordered this carpet edging. The carpet's supposed to slide into it like that. Problem is, when I pull this carpet up, all it does is disintegrate because it's got adhesive all over it from when they stuck it down. So what I'm going to do, the reason I bought this is because it's so flexible, because I got all these curves on here. So instead of actually sliding it into here, I'm just going to put this on top and then butt this up against the doghouse, and then also screw it down because I don't know how well the adhesive is going to stick to the carpet. The only reason I'm doing that is because I want a nice clean edge going around. So this should work out pretty well. So I got my edging all down. I got my 12-volt adapter mounted for all of my electronics up here. Last thing I have to mount is our little caddy to be able to hold some drinks and hold some other stuff. I'm going to mount that on here, and then we'll be all completed. Okay, so that's going to do it for this project. I think it came out really nice. Looks 100% better than when I first started. I'm going to put a link down in the description for all the products I used for this project, and we really appreciate it when you use those links. And if you found this video helpful, we'd really appreciate it if you'd share it with your friends and family on social media. And if you're not yet a subscriber, make sure and hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. That way you'll be notified each time we upload a new video. And make sure to leave a comment. That way you could be part of the conversation. Until next time, we'll see you.
That's a wrap, roamers. If these adventures and tips are keeping you inspired, subscribe and watch another one. Your next RV tip or destination is just a click away.